I have a quick copywriting tip for you today about when to use short copy versus when to use long copy. Now, I know a ton of people approach this almost like a dogma, like, oh, there's a rule, long copy is always better, or short copy is always better. And to a degree, I'm gonna fall on the long copy side of that because given all else being equal for an individual test where you're testing long copy written by a highly qualified copywriter versus shorter copy written by a highly qualified copywriter. In general, the truism of the more you tell, the more you sell is going to be the winner. Like 1,000 tests, on average, the long copy is going to do better. Not in every single test, maybe, but on average. And that is because there is more opportunity to make a fuller sales argument, to address more objections, to just make sure that your prospect feels understood in terms of the problem and how you help them overcome it. And so that takes words, that takes more copy. And so longer copy does tend to perform better. But that's like one specific narrow test. When you start to branch out and you start to say, okay, does this product need super long copy versus this product? Does it need super long copy? And, how do I make that decision between those? That's when it starts to get a little more nuanced and a little less dogmatic in terms of, oh, long copy is the best, right? And it all comes down, like the biggest thing, the one thing that I always remember is what is the complexity of the sale that you are trying to make with that single piece of copy. And we'll get to some of the nuanced ways to look at that in different perspectives of that in just a second here. But how complex is the sale that you need to make? What's the complexity of the sale that you need to make with this piece of copy? And in general, the less complex the sale, the more you can get away with just having very short copy. The more complex the sale, the more long copy is actually necessary to make the sale. And so, I in terms of things that really work well with short copy, I like to go back to things that are as simple as paper towels and toilet paper and, like basic food items. To sell an apple at the grocery store, you don't necessarily need a lot of copy. Now, you might be able to sell a certain apple better with a little bit more copy, but you don't need a 10,000 word sales letter to sell this apple. Arguably, Harry and David actually launched their pairs by mail business with much longer copy ads, which justified them selling pairs for higher prices. And so there is always a case study in people using longer copy to successfully sell things where short copy does well enough in many situations. But in general, something as simple as that, or selling toilet paper, you might say softer toilet paper or quilted toilet paper or stronger toilet paper or whatever. But it tends not to be too complex of a sale. And so the copy does not need to be long to sell well. On the other hand, if you look at something like an investment newsletters, which I've sold since 2010, that tends to be a very complex sale because you are trying to communicate with the prospect about the investment strategy and specifically the investments that you are suggesting and why they are superior and why the strategy is superior and why this person as a picker of investment opportunities is superior and why the prospect should pay attention and follow them and be interested and why this particular investment is a can't miss proposition. And so you look at things like that, and that's a much more complex sale, and that's why in the investment newsletter industry, it's very standard for a sales letter to run 5,000, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 words or more. And there are other similar industries where similarly long copy is almost necessary if you want to acquire a customer from cold traffic that's people who have never heard of you, seen you, whatever. Now, when you sell to those same people and you sell a similarly complex product, but they know you better, the sale is slightly less complex. And so you'll tend to get away with slightly shorter copy there, but still you're talking 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 words as far as the length of the copy that works in those situations, because it's still fundamentally a very complex sale. It's just that you're more familiar with them. So that complexity is lessened. Other questions that you can ask, other notes that I took for myself to talk about this, are how much is it like what they're already buying? So if somebody's already buying like a particular product and yours is very similar to that, and like maybe this is the next one, they're replacing the old one, or maybe it's a consumable product, if they're very familiar with it, they may not need a lot of copy already, because they're already familiar. They've already gone through that education process that long copy helps somebody go through to make a buying decision. So if it's like something that they're already buying, yeah, okay, maybe you get away with a lot less copy. But if it's like something they've never bought before, then you're probably going to need much longer copy. Is its use obvious? Like how obvious? Like if I'm buying a toothbrush, I know what a toothbrush is. I know why I needed all of that. So buying a new toothbrush, its use is very obvious. If I'm buying batteries, their use is very obvious. Now, there can be advantages to one toothbrush over another. And, like electric toothbrushes they tend to justify much longer copy versus just, the manual toothbrush. And so like, these different things, batteries, there can be advantages to different batteries. But again, going back to investment newsletters or a lot of information products tend to have less obvious use. And so they, again, demand longer copy. How well do they know you? I kind of spoke to that before. If they know you well, you don't want to assume that they understand why they should listen to you and why they should believe you. And you should always come back to that and address that in your marketing. And you should always convey proof, credibility, and believability. I have a whole program on the 26 types of proof, credibility, and believability, and like why they're necessary in copy and how to use them. But if somebody knows you, you show up to the sale with more credibility and believability. And so you can tend to get away with a little less copy on that front. Have they been made the promise before? Now, this may seem counterintuitive, because when I said how much is it like what they're already buying, if it's very familiar, like they're buying one brand of toilet paper versus another, there probably doesn't need to be a lot of copy to make somebody switch. But if they've been made the promise before and it wasn't fulfilled, I think the markets where people are perpetually switching from one product or one solution to another, like weight loss or certain health products or fitness products, or have they been made the promise before? And if they've been made the promise before and it hasn't been completely fulfilled, then you're probably going to need to use longer copy, because you need to help them deal with that skepticism and see why your product or service is different, what advantages you have, how you convey how you have a unique understanding of their persistent problem, and through that understanding you've developed a better solution, and how that is going to give them an advantage this time around. So if they've been made the promise before and come up short, you probably are going to have to use longer copy. And then the last one, and this is really important. I think of something like a car ad. And cars tend to be, honestly, like a fairly complex sale. But is it a one-shot or a multi-step sale? I'm also thinking of like selling to a business, selling business services, selling high-end business services. Is it a one-shot or a multi-step sale? So one of the things about selling investment newsletters is you almost always are writing an entire sales letter to convert the person in one go. Now, they may come to that sales letter and they may leave and they may come back, and they may leave and they may come back, but it's still designed to make that entire persuasion process happen inside one piece of copy. On the other hand, when you get into something much more complex, you may find that, okay, there's a car ad that actually gets you kind of interested and looking the car up online. And then there's more details on the car online, which actually turns out to be kind of a lot of copy, and people skim and people bounce around and people look at different things. And then they go to the dealership. And when they go to the dealership and maybe they're test driving, they're also given more information about the car, if they're not ready to make their decision yet. And there can be different parts of the decision that are addressed with different pieces of copy. So there can be information about financing the vehicle and what that looks like, and information about warranty plans and what that looks like. And if all of these multiple steps are happening and you think, oh, cars have short copy, that's not necessarily true. It's just that you see individual chunks of the copy that are part of the total process that leads that buyer to making the purchasing decision. Likewise with like a business service, like a complex high-end business service, where there may be a committee who's making the decision. There has to be multiple presentations that go on. There's the salesperson that speaks with them and has like a consultation, and there's like all this follow-up, and there's all these different elements of the sale that are contributing. And there may be case studies, and the person may look at 3 or 4 or 10 case studies before they make the purchase. And there may be features descriptions and benefits and different components of the offer, and all of these different elements that you look at one page on the website and you say, oh, this is a short copy sale, because there's one page on the website that's giving you an overview of what this business service is. But the reality is that the more tools that in that case the sales team is handed, in terms of case studies, in terms of PR, in terms of support structures for actually having the sales calls, in terms of presentations put together, in terms of product descriptions that are handed out at trade shows and conferences, in terms of all of that, that adds up to long copy as part of the buyer journey. And so the question is, like, how complex is the sale? And then I guess layering onto that, how complex, going back to the beginning, how complex is the sale that this single piece of copy needs to make? The sale not necessarily being the transfer of money, the actual transaction of the financial sale that's made, but the sale of one piece of copy needs to be, hey, I just need to get this person's attention. Like, they're scrolling through Facebook, they're browsing the internet, and I just need to get their attention long enough that they're going to be interested in learning a little bit more. And how complex is that sale versus how complex is the sale of, like, this person received an email and by the end of this session, there's going to be the purchase of a investment newsletter that's going to deliver investment advice to them for the next 12 months. And so consider the complexity of the sale that this piece of copy needs to make. And the more complex of sale this piece of copy needs to make, the longer the copy will tend to need to be to succeed, because it's going to do a more complete selling job. On the other hand, if the complexity of the sale is very low that this particular copy needs to make, then it can usually get away with being much shorter. And often, actually, in cases like that, shorter ends up being better. For example, in email testing, a lot of times the emails that actually drive traffic to a longer sales letter for financial newsletters and in other markets, those emails that drive traffic from, oh, this person got this email and now they're here, those tend to work better when they're shorter. On the other hand, there are other things where the email needs to do more of the selling job, and so the email needs to be longer. And so again, how complex is the sale that this particular piece of copy needs to make? Whether that sale is attention and a click, or it's something much, much, much deeper. All right, that's my copywriting tip for you today. When to use short copy, when to use long copy, and all of the thinking behind that. I don't know. What do you think? Leave a comment below. Let me know on a scale of 1 to 10 how much value you got from this and why. Like, what's your big takeaway? How's this going to impact your writing copy and putting together marketing in the future? Also, click that like button before you go so you get more content like this delivered to you, and so the magical algorithms of the internet know to share it with more people like you who will find it valuable. If you have somebody in your life that has, perpetually been asking this question, or is involved in copywriting and marketing and, been involved in this argument, they may find value out of it, but you have to share it with them directly so they can get that value. So certainly you can share this and subscribe before you go. You can subscribe here. You can also go to breakthroughmarketingsecrets.com. The link's in the description. Sign up for my daily emails Monday through Friday with these videos and more content exclusive for email subscribers. And hey, I'll also include a link in the description to that proof, credibility, and believability training. It's part of my BTMS Insiders training library, which has a ton of content for copywriters, for people in direct response, for people whose marketing has to generate results in order for it to be successful. I encourage you to check those links out. They're all in the description below. My name is Roy Furr. This has been a video issue of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. I always aim for that 10 out of 10 value. I hope I've delivered it here, and I look forward to seeing you again in your next video issue. See you soon. Bye.